there's a consequence to that. There's an economic cost. There's sometimes a fatal life cost to somebody driving without a driver's license, without insurance, maybe drunk.
Absolutely,
maybe they've been driving and drink, without a license for a long time. And they've been running on luck, but their luck is going to run out.
Well, what I think people don't understand with this law is that as Americans, if we're not illegal, we still have to have all our birth certificates. We still have to have our driver's license. We still have to have our insurance. There's papers that are needed to live and run in this country. And for some reason, we've made our mistakes in America, and we've allowed this to go on. Now, Political Brother has this thing. He always says that, this country, you guys stole it. We stole it, meaning the American. He jokes about that.
As the radical leftist, and
that's not true.
I'm not
but
trying
it's
to
not
play
true.
with. I know that I'm out there. This is where you can say I'm politically off the map. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to put Al in a position, but I refuse to discuss political issues like this without the context of history. This was their land. Slave owners moved into Texas and took that land. That is the history. That is what occurred.
Well, what happened was,
I'll set the record straight.
That's how you got slaves in Texas. That's how you got slaves in Texas.
That's why we have Al Ramirez here to set the record straight to help you out. Al, set the record
was
straight.
a Spanish province up until the 1820s, and then they gained their independence from Spain, and then by trying to grow their empire, they invited people to colonize Texas and to colonize these northern territories. And so these guys came from Tennessee and Virginia and Ohio. And
with their slaves.
With their slaves.
That's how you got the slaves there.
And, and the Choctaws also were slave owners. A lot of the Indian tribes owned slaves.
Well, actually, everybody was, Al, even though that's the whole discussion of the different types of slavery.
So
the whole world has
But was the land stolen?
But what happened was, just like the American Revolution, they felt like they were being unfairly taxed.
Absolutely.
A lot of the deals that the Mexican
government... The rich landowners.
The Mexican government had...
The man finished.
Had figured out that they maybe didn't cut as good a deal as they should have. And then, Stephen F. Austin, Texas was the first state to a republic to gain its independence, and then the California Republic. But, the Texas, colonists there decided that they wanted to form a republic. And they didn't have the intention of becoming part of the United States. They left the United States. But, Mexico proper had only owned these territories for, 10 years.
Oh, really? Only 10 years?
Well, you remember that because the country was, Mexico had to gain their independence from
Spain.
So they were not, these were Spanish colonies that became, property of Mexico for about 10 years. And then, 10 years later, California did the same thing with the Great Bear Revolt. And just to let you know how, this is really, the way the course of nature is supposed to work, and it was manifest destiny. I know we're getting into some
manifest destiny.
Can you say that again, please?
Manifest destiny. Well, that's another discussion.
The California flag is based on the Texas flag, and the Texas flag is based on the Florida Republic flag. Very few people know that Florida was a republic as well that broke off for independence. And the original Florida Republic flag was a blue field with a white star. So then when Texas became a republic and gained its independence, it took the blue field with a single star and added the red bar and the white bar.
Right.
And then when California gained its independence as a republic, it took the white field with the red bar and took the star. And since they didn't take the field and they only had red paint, they went ahead and put the red star. And it was, because there were so many bears where the big, the Great Bear Revolt started. So that shows you that, sometimes things are just meant to be the way they are. And
there's a leap there, Al. You took a giant leap. That was the giant leap. But okay. I appreciate that.
It was only Mexico's for 10 years.
But you guys know where I stand.
At the most.
Well, we know you stand with no agreement.
All colonized folks to move freely within the colony.
People stealing.
There were sparsely populated northern territories, except for the, Camino Real, which, went from San Diego all the way up, which is, now we know as PCH or Pacific Coast Highway, but you still see it labeled sometimes as Camino Real, and what it did is it connected all the missions.
I will say this, Al, at least by acknowledging to the degree that you do, it really helps set a better tone for the discussion, because you discuss the issue differently when you have the light of this history. It does make you discuss it differently, especially when you take into account of the other nationalities and their presence, their indigenous presences within these areas. So at least that, I think that is important. It adds, it's what calms down some of the storm.
Well, that's what I try to do. That's what I've been doing for 20 years, is calming the storm. And
keeping it afloat. Well, Mario, I send over a video. You guys go to hiphoprepublican.tv. Make sure you go to hiphoprepublican.tv and .com. We have our guest, Ramirez, all over the place, so that you can go check him out and see the links to his website. And also, he has one video on his site. But I also wanted the political brother to kind of look up. There's one, Glenn Beck. Did you ever see Glenn Beck's video on the history of illegal immigration and how he feels about it? What's your input on Glenn Beck?
I don't listen to talk radio, and I know that I'm going to get.
He's on Fox News.
I know that I'm going to get my head on a stick by certain people for this, but I don't listen to talk radio, and I don't watch the talking heads on TV. I've been doing this for 20 years, longer really when you consider my volunteer activities that I started as a young boy. I've met every president, or seen them, been in the room when they've been giving a speech since Reagan. I've even met some of the Democrat ones that are running for president.
The Democrats, those losers!
I feel like, a lot of that is not news anymore.
Okay.
And if it was news, they would be giving me equal time. But what they are is they're entertainment programs. And that's the way they're classified, so that they don't have to give candidates equal time, so they don't have to cover all.
And they pick and choose who they want.
They pick and choose who they want.
Yeah.
They pick and choose.
How do you bypass that? Because they have such a mass audience that follow them. How do you because you're doing that. Well, you're going to be able to see this video that political brother is pulling up on Glenn Beck's, because Glenn Beck basically has come out of nowhere in the last 5 years, and he's pulling a lot of Rush Limbaugh's crowd and all these other crowds. How do you get a piece of that pie?
Well, on the Twitter program, for example, there's, a lot of lists that are out there, but there's one particular movement called TCOT, Top Conservatives on Twitter, where they put the hashtag, the little pound sign and the whatever the subject
TCOT,
is, so that it's easier to index.
Yes.
So TCOT has a big movement.
Yes, they do.
All my opponents use it, but there's a leaderboard that goes with that. There's an actual group that organized that movement. And so on that leaderboard, the most followed is Newt Gingrich. Number 2 is now Glenn Beck. He dropped off for a while. Number 3 is Steve Poizner. Number 4 is Al Ramirez. So there's visibility there amongst that very, hard right constituency.
Wow.
And then among the most...
Is that why you really believe that Steve Poizner is beating Meg Whitman in the Twitter box per se more?
Well, I think that his broadcasts are getting out a little bit farther. I know that mine are getting out farther. My base is more engaged. Even though Carly has about 260, I think Tom has about 215, 220. Mine, neither one of them are on this leaderboard. Even though they use the TCOT hashtag, Chuck uses it. Chuck only has about 11,000 Twitter followers. His are very, very, very loyal people that he's cultivated over 20 years of politicking down in Orange County. But that's his base, and he's not reaching beyond that. And then, because he doesn't have that visibility, even though he's using it, it's more of an echo chamber. Whereas mine is finding its way into the search engines, it's finding its way into other retweets, into other lists, and so I think that it makes me competitive. And I don't, try to diminish anything that somebody like Glenn Beck or Bill O'Reilly or Rush Limbaugh or any of those folks say, or diminish
Well, they're not running for office. They are shock jocks, and they are people that are out there to stir up energy about the parties. If you agree or not, I think the controversy is how they lead the parties. They're quote-unquote leaders of the party. Well, we know that they're not our leaders, that we're able to lead ourselves, and we have candidates like you who know what you're doing.
At the end of the day,